Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to Living in the Limelight, an Anton Scholl and Friends podcast where we discuss music from the artist and fan perspective. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Hey, welcome to a special edition of Living in the Limelight. I am your host, Anton Scholl, and today we have some special guests. We are normally have musicians on. And today, though, we're going to discuss from the fan standpoint, which is something we've been wanting to do for quite some time, get some fans on here and discuss what really they're looking for when it comes to going to see shows, going to see bands, whether it be in small venues and or concerts. We just want to find out from the fan themselves what they're looking for and help out musicians along the way. So everybody can kind of gain a little insight on what the other side thinks. All right. So with us today, we have special guests, Jenn and Ashley. So we're going to ask you guys just introduce yourselves really quick, where you're from and when you really started knowing that music was something that you enjoyed and wanting to go out and play and listen to. So Jenn, let's start with you.
Yes, thank you. So my name's Jenn. I'm currently in Arizona, originally from California, Southern California, and I've been listening to music for a very long time. When I was really into it when I was younger as a kid, I'd sit there, listen to music, record it on my little, cassettes, making my own mixes and stuff just from a very, very young age. And it's just always been around me. I have to have music playing all the time. So it's just a part of me.
Good. Perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. Ashley.
Hey, so I'm Ashley. I'm from Southern California, Newport Beach area. And then I started driving around with my grandpa when I was like 5, 6, 7 years old for his construction business to help him get through the carpool lanes. And so listening to like standards, golden oldies, things like that really opened my mind to some new music. And then from that point forward, it was kind of just, I think VH1 and MTV really played a big part in discovering new bands and finding new music. And then high school is kind of where I got into what I've stuck with ever since.
Oh, okay. And what was the style of music that you started listening to? Like, was there a band? So we'll start with Ashley then. Was there a band that kind of just caught your eye right away and thought like, wow, this is it?
I think there were so many. And I mean, Jenn and we're sisters, right? So we grew up together. She influenced a lot of my music because she just was a little more experimental than I was. I think for me, I really got into like the Used, and this was a recommendation from Jenn that, and they are my favorite band. I've seen them the most out of anyone else I've seen. And that was probably in like 2005.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. And Jenn, what about you?
Yeah. So probably one of the first bands I really was interested in was Sublime. My dad listened to them a lot when we'd be driving to the beach, and it's just that like Southern California music, right? So they were like one of the first bands I was really into, and then I kind of progressed into that more like rock, punk, and about high school time. So like 2004, 2005 is really when I got into like that more rock. So yeah, My Chemical Romance was probably the band that really like changed everything for me and changed my music to more of like that harder stuff, and I guess emo stuff too. They like to call it.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. And so with that, then it was when you said My Chemical Romance. I know that my son and daughter-in-law just got back from a concert in California from them where they did the whole concept album,
Yep.
the whole first part of it.
Yes.
So concepts then, or shows, when you're looking to see a group, there's groups out there that kind of just go out there and play, no gimmicks, no nothing. They just play. Others put on a show. So with the price of venues now, whether it be a concert or whether it be in a small place, with cover charges. What do you expect to see if you're paying a cover charge or something to go and see a group? Who do you want to go? Let's do Ashley first, and then we'll go to Jen.
I think it truly depends on the band, right? We actually did see the My Chemical Romance, the Black Parade show in Seattle on the first night, and I was expecting the full theatrical production, just because of all of the history of the music and the band and how they broke up and came back together. So I was expecting that. I also paid for that experience. It was not, it was a pretty penny. But then there's bands like Bayside that I go and see, and they are one of those bands that just hits song after song after song. There's not a lot of talking. There's not a lot of um, show other than just the music. And I
Mhm.
think it's I have set expectations for the specific bands I'm going to see. I expect more from someone like My Chemical Romance when it comes to theatrics, and someone like Black Veil Brides. And then you've got bands like Bayside or The Used where they're really just hitting the music and they're hitting the specific classics and then getting into some of the newer stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right, Jen, what
Yeah.
about you?
I'd have to agree. I think it kind of just goes back to like what are they performing? If they're performing a whole album, then I'm expecting to, I guess, see that performed, the story performed in front of us. Like, we just saw, My Chemical Romance, and they did that Black Parade album, and they had a whole performance with it, and it just made sense. You're doing the whole album, so why not, put on the performance, bring things from the music videos you've done into, this whole story, right? So those shows, I do expect that, those larger shows where they're doing a world tour of one album. But when it's other bands, you know performing, going on tours, maybe not doing a full album, I just love being there for the music at that point. I'm just want to hear all the songs, old songs especially. Love their newer songs too, but of course I resonate more with the older songs because that's when I was listening to it a lot more, because it just was there more for me.
Right, right. And when is the last time you guys were at like a smaller venue? I know you
Mhm.
like to do the large shows. The last time you were at a venue where maybe you saw a local band
Mhm.
playing, has that been quite some
Trying to
time for
think.
each of you guys to have seen that?
I'd say last year was probably the last time I was like at a smaller venue. I was going to see a little bit larger of a band. They're not so big, but they're a little bit larger, doing a tour around the states, and they were bringing in local bands from the states that they were visiting, and I like that because, I took my daughter Luna to this show, and she loved a band there that she saw. She actually got merch from them. She got a set list from them. And, those moments are awesome because you're getting to learn about a new band, and then you have that great interaction. It's like, now I'm going to go out and listen to them, and, maybe even find other bands just off of them. So,
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
now when you see a band like that
Mhm.
in a smaller venue, is that the same expectations, or like are the bands just coming out because they really don't have the ability to do a
Yeah.
physical show? Like there can't be a lot of theatrics, there can't be a lot of pyrotechnics,
Right.
you
Right.
know. So I mean it changes, and it really kind of falls upon the band
Hmm.
to be really good at their music, in
Yeah.
what they do, because you're not
Yeah.
hiding behind a show, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's kind of expected when you go out and see a group. But the groups that you've seen, when is the last time you've seen a cover band or a tribute band?
I I go to so right now the OC Fair is going on in Orange County, and they have cover bands that play almost nightly. And I, with my friends, usually always see the Stevie Nicks tribute band there because they
Okay.
are just really great. They put on an amazing show. Um, there's some theatrics in it. I mean, not necessarily pyrotechnics, but there's costumes and changes and things like that. And I think they do a really great job of engaging a younger audience to get them into this music that maybe they wouldn't have found had it not been for walking by the stage at a fair, right? I think
Oh,
those kinds of venues are really important when it comes to getting the younger generation into music and into going to see live music, because I worry with like the advent of social media and everyone's like really online on their phones all the times, people aren't going to be super interested in going to shows. So I think it's important that we have venues like that that are accessible, they're affordable, they're accessible to just about anyone, and then get them into older music so they can start exploring.
yeah. Well, I didn't know that there was a Stevie Nicks tribute. That'd be kind of nice to
Yeah,
see.
they're awesome. They're
Oh,
really, really great.
wow. And Jen, what about you? Have you seen a cover or a tribute band? Well, mainly, I guess let's look at tribute bands then, because I know quite a few people in
Mhm.
tribute bands, and I myself was in tribute bands back in the day and used to do things like that. So, like when you're going out, what is the what is the most uh, the on a tribute band, what would you like to see somebody do as a tribute band? Because we have the basics, right? We have Motley Crue,
Right.
we have Led Zeppelin, we have a lot of the standards that are the very very popular bands,
Yeah.
and now we have Stevie Nicks. I know someone who does Pat Benatar and Pretenders
Right.
and such. So, like, what would you like to see as a tribute act come out?
That's a good question. A tribute band I'd like to see maybe. Oh, this is a tough one because there's so many. That's a tough one. Like I don't even know. Because I'd like to do a tribute band that maybe doesn't perform as much. Maybe I don't know. That's tough.
Well, you like to see, let's say, if you saw My Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
Okay, they put on a show. Would you go to see a My Chemical Romance tribute band?
Probably. I'd like to see.
Just
I feel like
see
it'd
them?
be fun because they can put it in their own ways, right? They can turn it and make the songs their own. It can have a different beat to it, but maybe same lyrics. So I feel like that would be fun. Because again, a lot of people like them because of their theatrics. So I think they would, in some
Right,
way, even if it's a small little dive bar or something, they would find a way to make it a performance.
right, right. Ashley, who would you like to see?
Um, that's probably for me, I think David Bowie. I never got to see him when he was alive and
Oh,
missed that
okay.
opportunity. And I think someone who did a really good David Bowie tribute would be phenomenal. It wouldn't be exactly like a wish come true or a dream come true kind of moment, but it would be the closest thing I could get, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I never even thought about that too. But that would, I would think that a David Bowie tribute would probably take a lot of musicians for one thing.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and probably an expensive show to put on. So yeah, I can.
Probably, but it just would be so fun.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's true. That's true. And there's some bands out there now that are that you guys have probably seen that are very popular with you,
Hmm.
but are not very popular, let's say, within the mainstream. So you may not hear them on the
Right.
radio a lot, or you may not hear a lot of people talking about them. For a long time, I think Sublime was probably one of them, and then they just took off
Mhm.
and became huge. So with Ashley, uh, what band would you recommend that you've seen or that you like to follow over and over that may not have the exposure that you think they should have?
Bayside for sure. They're like a post-hardcore band out of New Jersey, and they've got a great following, right? They've been around for, I think, I just went to their 25th anniversary tour. Um, I've seen them like 8 or 9 times now. I really like them. They're up there in some of my top bands, but they're not as well known. With a lot of people who are into like the hardcore scene. Um, and I think that's a shame because they really are a great band and they put on a really really fun performance.
So why do you think that is? If they've been together for 25 years, and if they have a following like that, what do you think is the difference between what they're doing versus what some of these mainstream bands that everybody has heard of?
I think a little bit of it is location. Um, I
Mhm.
think they come from a smaller town in New Jersey. They didn't have as much exposure, and they don't have the same theatrics. You look at similar, not similar in the sense that they say make the same music, but similar in the sense that they're in the same genre of that like emo, pop punk, post hardcore. You look at The Used or My Chemical Romance, and they are a little more. I'm like theatrical is maybe the right word. Their music videos are a little more out there. They're more they tell a bit more of a story through multiple songs, whereas Bayside stuff is really one song encapsulates an entire story. And I think it just resonates a little bit differently with people. Um,
Yeah.
but that's I think why I like them. I think it sets them apart from some of the other more mainstream bands.
Oh, okay. And Jen, what about you with that same question?
Yeah. So this band's been around for a long time. I just don't see them as much on tour. Well, they're kind of starting to go on tour a little bit more, but not a lot of people know a lot of their newer songs, some of their older songs because they're staples, but um, you know, the band's name is Silverstein. They're more of like that hardcore, like screaming, screamo music. And they've been around for a long time. They have really great songs. They're still pumping out albums, and I just noticed that they play a lot more smaller venues when they go on tour compared to like, other bands that play stadiums. And I don't know why that is, because I'm like, this is one of my favorite bands. Like they've got all their albums are amazing. They do have a decent following, but it's just, I don't know where that disconnect is, because when they do go on tour, maybe they don't come to Phoenix, or they do come to Phoenix, but it's, one night, whereas other places have 2 nights, like LA or something. And,
Yeah.
that's what I want to see more of, is I want to see maybe more stops, more options when they do go on tour. Um, yeah.
Oh. Well, so now what about social media? So, Ashley,
Mhm.
I'll ask you this first then. Do you think that social media plays a big part in getting bands out there? For example, TikTok. We see people that even they just use like a song in the background, a five
Mhm.
second, 20-second clip or whatever of a song, and
Mhm.
gets bands out there. And then there's these other bands that are starting out with just doing covers or just playing, doing basic advertisements. How do you think social media has affected some of these bands, and should more bands be doing it?
I think it's interesting because I've discovered a couple of new bands from things like TikTok or Instagram. I think that's just because you curate your feed to see what you want,
Mhm.
and I haven't had an opportunity to go and see any of them just yet because they're not touring in my area. But would if I could. I've started listening and streaming stuff on Spotify, so I definitely think it helps because
Mhm.
I'm not super active on TikTok or Instagram in the sense that like I post a lot and things like that. But I do see how it does encourage people to look into different bands that are a little outside the mainstream. And
Yeah.
because there are these new options available. And I think it's great too that it helps a lot of these smaller bands, maybe younger bands, they can self produce and they can self promote, and they are getting away from larger production companies, larger record labels that have a history of exploiting bands and artists. So I think
Mhm.
it's kind of interesting to see how that might change the dynamic of the industry, like the music industry in general,
Right.
because it's just going to play how it plays out in the next 5 years will be really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. What about you, Jen?
Yeah, so I'm not really on TikTok like that, but I definitely see the influence it does have on artists and musicians. And if you're, I feel like a newer group or band, definitely use that to their advantage, because it's
Yeah.
the smallest little bit can get them, blown up in, one day. Right.
Right.
I think I'm more of like Instagram and stuff like that. I definitely see bands posting on there, when they have new albums or merch dropping. I just, feel like I'd like to, I don't know, because there's some people that aren't on social media. Like, I'd like to know like other ways to maybe, have these bands reach out to, people that maybe don't use online,
Yeah.
like the old days, posting their, information in like coffee shops, like those mom and pop shops down by the colleges and stuff. Just listen to my music. Here's my albums, like passing them out. That's a
Yeah.
old school way, but it definitely works. Going to shows, maybe they can't be in the show, they can't go to the show, but standing outside giving out their albums, or giving out their information, like listen to my music. That's another great way
Mhm.
to get music out.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
To
for
to
sure.
add to that, right, we just went to Warp Tour in Long Beach, a
Hmm.
couple weeks back, and as we were leaving, there was a band that had set up on the roof of their van on the side of the street, and they were
Yeah.
playing, like, they had speakers and everything, and they were playing a full show out on the side of the street, and, they
Yeah.
ended up getting, the police stopped them and everything, but because that's that's
But
just
it
what
was it
happens.
was it was
It
fun, and a
was
lot of
very
people
cool.
remember them.
Yeah,
And they ended
and
up on, like, I did see them on Instagram. People were posting
yep,
videos from them, and now a
yeah,
lot of people know who they
mm,
are, and they're listening to their music. So,
yeah,
Right.
that
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
draws people into, like, that's what catches my attention.
Yeah. And marketing is definitely a big part of it. And a lot of musicians, they don't really know, in the sense, they focus on music. And when you're a musician, you kind of focus on the songs, you focus on your show, you focus on what you're doing. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of them are not big on social media.
Yeah.
They're having a difficult time trying to get out there and do their thing. And they're just hoping that word of mouth can help and come to the shows. And sometimes it does. But
Mhm.
otherwise, it gets very difficult for a musician to really get themselves out there without some help. And I keep
mhm,
encouraging, musicians to get on social media. We probably need and it's probably on the other side of that. There's a lot of musicians that are on social media, but there may not be a lot of listeners, a lot of music listeners. A lot of people go on social media to try to push their product, whether they're a musician or anybody else. And then other musicians may not listen to them, but
mhm,
fans would.
Right.
A lot of
right,
musicians take that as competition,
Right.
which is
yeah,
unfortunate. They should never do that, but unfortunate they do. But yeah, it seems like maybe we need more just fans on social media looking specifically
Hmm.
for musicians on there to go after. So now, what about music itself and the streaming or purchasing of music? It's very difficult for musicians to get their music streamed or get their music listened to.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to buy music anymore. It just doesn't seem to
mhm,
be out there. A lot of people are just streaming music, but
Hmm.
when you stream music, it's great. But musicians get, like a, for every 50 streams, they get a partial of a penny.
Right.
Like it's
right.
really small.
Right.
It's really small. When you guys are looking for music, so we'll start with Jen. When you're looking at music, where do you go to listen to your music or stream?
Yeah. So I use Amazon Music usually, or I have Spotify. Listen to Spotify. There are a lot more like sets on there. I like, full recordings of concerts on there that I like to listen to. And in those instances, you can hear newer bands as well that kind of get mixed in with it. Even listening to like Amazon Music, um, you know, you can listen to a specific band or a station, and they incorporate other bands maybe that you never listened to. I've picked up some listening through there. um but yeah, those are kind of my main like platforms that I listen through. I used to listen a lot more on like YouTube. I kind of pushed away from that, but YouTube and that would have a lot more bands, local bands posting on there that you would kind of fall upon. But yeah, that's just something that I just pulled away from. So
Okay. All right, Ashley, what about you?
I mostly just stream everything from Spotify. I'd love to find a nice record setup and have some records and start collecting those. Because I think that there's just something kind of nostalgic about picking out a specific album and listening to it front to back like that is really cool. I just haven't actually broken down and bought anything. And then I don't have a stereo in the house. I've got,
Mm-hmm.
a couple speakers that I put my Spotify connected to. And then in the car, it's just easy to connect my phone. Um, since, we don't really have a lot of CD players in cars and stuff anymore. So
Right.
for me, it's mainly streaming. I know, I love to actually and I would purchase music if it was something like I had to buy the album from a band. I would be happy to support because I think it's important to support artists. Um, so for me, I stream because it's there, it's available, it's convenient. But I
Mm-hmm.
would, go back. I'd go back to the old Apple Music days where you had to pay for the songs, or the albums.
I was gonna
Right.
say I don't
If
really
it,
ever see that anymore. Like
yeah,
where you
if it,
buy albums like that. It's just when an album drops, like it's just everywhere now.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very difficult for bands to put out physical media
yeah,
nowadays. It's a lot easier to just put it up on social media sites, but then it's more difficult to get people to listen to it. So you're saying that if bands did release
hmm
physical music, then you would buy it. What format would you be looking for? So would you be looking for CD, album, or
Pro-
you know,
probably a
with
vinyl. I
fine?
think there's like there's this resurgence of vinyls coming back, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
Mhm.
There's little like independent record stores that are popping up now in Orange County, which are great.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, I think it started with like a Target brand, really crummy vinyl player that got popular. And now, everyone's like expanding their knowledge on that, which is awesome. Um, but I think for me, I would love to get into like a vinyl collecting and playing, my records and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Jen, what about you?
Yeah, vinyl would be awesome. I do have a record player, so that would be cool if we could just go back into that. But I need music to follow me. So I would have to, purchase these albums both on vinyl and on, whatever app they're selling it on. I would buy the full album. We used to buy CDs, so
Right?
now
Yeah.
it's easy to get it. But if they reverted back to that, then they'll get my money
Yeah.
for
Okay,
sure.
good. Good. That's definitely good to know.
Yeah,
All right,
I
now
mean, if that's what they go back to. I mean, how else would we be able to listen to their newer albums that they're putting out there? We've always supported bands in that way from forever, right?
Forever.
So
Yeah,
it's
as long
just
as
they
I
just
can
make it way
remember.
too easy now to just open an app. You already paid that monthly fee, and then it's there for you. So
right, right. Very true.
if there was a way that bands could go back or do make their own like platform to where they sell their music and it doesn't go anywhere else until it's bought, that'd be great.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Well, the last couple of last questions because we are already running out of time. See how quickly it goes. Um, what is the most? We'll start with Ashley. What is the most you've ever paid to see a band, and who was
Uh,
it?
very recently, it was like almost $600 for the ticket, and that was My Chemical Romance.
For one ticket.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And three of us went. So it was it was a special trip for my niece, and yeah, it was exciting to share our music with her.
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
that's a fan. 600
Yeah.
bucks for a ticket for that's now. What about the least amount, even back in the day when you saw a band that you really liked? What was the least amount you've ever paid to see a show?
I think I paid like I want to say $29 to see Rod Stewart when I was
Oh, okay.
16, which is crazy that
Wow.
I don't know how I got
Okay.
tickets that cheap, but that was my, you know, I might have been a little bit younger, but that was my first concert, and I think it was like around $30.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Oh, and I would love to. I've never seen Rod Stewart. I've
Oh,
seen
he's
a
great.
lot of
Amazing.
classic rock in a lot of groups. Wow, I've never seen that. That 30 bucks for that?
I
There you go.
know.
All right, Jen. Jen, what
Steal.
about you?
Right. Yeah, so I'd have to say, well, our first concert, like way back in the day, was actually free. We got to see Matchbox 20 at the
Okay.
fair a long time ago. So that was like one of our bigger concerts we got to go to for free. But paying for one, I'd say cheapest would be like maybe $15 to $20 seeing Seosin,
I forgot about
at like a
that.
local, like little local bar, you know,
Yeah.
just playing. We had to go because we were teenagers. We had to have like the little X's on our hands, but it was a, up and coming like little punk, band in our area, and we had to see them.
Wow. And what was the most expensive one?
Probably the same as Ashley, the My Chemical Romance one that we went to recently.
Wow.
Well, if you're just talking bands, I would say that, but if we're talking raves, which is a festival, 3-day festival, $1,000.
Really? The raves are that much?
Wow.
I
Yeah.
didn't know that. I've never been to a rave. And I was thinking about that too the other day because I think it was Friday was actually the anniversary of Woodstock when
Yeah.
Woodstock opened. And if you've seen any of the video on Woodstock, it was just insane. And for me, I look at these raves now and I'm like, these are crazy.
It's
I
crazy.
didn't realize that they were that much. Now,
Yeah.
given the opportunity,
Yeah.
if you guys were there back in that day, would you have gone to Woodstock?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
1000%. I did
You
a
would
whole
have traveled
documentary on this in high school. I was
Wow.
like, this
Yep.
is my time. This is it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
First in line. Yeah, there's no doubt.
It looked chaotic, but in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Like everyone was just having a great time. I mean, obviously some bad times, but overall it's a part of history now. It was such a cool thing to, probably experience and just live through it, see all those amazing bands, and just
Yeah.
it was, and during that time period too, it's just, I think that's what